Hello, my name is Rich Schaefer, and this video is to describe a feasibility study that I've been conducting on the design of a new user interface for Vera, with the motivation of the design being able to run on multiple platforms: desktops, laptops, tablets, and mobile devices. I chose to use a number of commercially available free solutions, and then to develop those pieces that were unique to this particular problem. The first component that is commercially available is JVQuery. Its model is write less, do more. It's a JavaScript library, and it's used by millions of web-based developers. In fact, JVQuery is used inside the web interface for Vera right now, although it's an older version. The next major component is JVQuery Mobile. This is also a third-party supported user interface library that provides lots of widget kind of things, higher level than just text, into web-based services, such as tabs and sliders and expandable lists and all kinds of other things that are useful in building up user interfaces. It's layered on top of JVQuery, so at its core is JVQuery, which manipulates the HTML document, and this layer is more oriented towards more graphical kinds of things that are in the web document, and the ability to manipulate them, create them and manipulate them. Features of this library are things like not only the types of widgets that are available, but also that these widgets work on tablets, mobile devices, desktops, and laptops, whether the input device is a mouse and or your finger via a touch device. So that is a key part to this interface. And the third component is something that I've called JVQuery, which is the V stands for Vera. So it's a library, a JavaScript library, that follows much the same design guidelines as JVQuery and JVQuery Mobile, but that provides access and interface to the Vera data that's associated with your Vera. So let me pop up my little prototype here. And here we go. The time from when I pop it open, which I haven't done yet, the first display is instantaneous, to when you'll start seeing something is the amount of time it takes to query Java or to query Vera and build up the user interface. So it's a dynamic interface. So there it received the request, and now it's talking to Vera. There, it found all the data from Vera, and then started displaying some what I call widgets, or representations of devices. And this display, you say, well, geez, there's not very much active in my particular configuration. Quite contrary. But this is the middle of the day, and this particular display is only showing what's called active devices. And active devices are things that are turned on and or are doing something in my house right now. So this is my default display that I come up with. You can also change the scope. Right here it says scope active to another scope, and the options are active, which is what it came up with, all, to be able to look at all devices on my Vera, all the devices that are on the Vera dashboard, where the dashboard is that which is defined by the Vera web user interface, those devices that are in the no room, and then these are the list of all my rooms. So you can look at devices in a particular. I'm going to go to all just so you can see. When I changed it, it actually had to rebuild the user interface. And so now what you see is something that's very similar to the Vera user interface, in that there's the no room, those devices that are in no room, and then here's each of my rooms. And let's take a look at, for example, garage. And these are the devices that are in my garage. And very quickly, there are 2 garage doors. Here, and they use the garage door plugin, so they look like a lock. So there's garage door and the loading dock door right here. Those are the 2 garage doors. These right here, the garage door sensor and the loading dock sensor, are the associated door sensors that go to those garage doors, which is needed by the garage door plugin. One key thing to note here is that, look at the icons are different between the garage door sensor and the loading dock sensor. That's because in this prototype, I've separated out the display concept of a device from the implementation concept of a device, such that I can provide a different user interface, and in particular, I changed the icons for the garage door sensor versus the loading dock sensor. And I could have changed it for the loading dock sensor as well, but I just wanted to show you how this is implemented. Then what we have are some lights in the garage door, hallway lights, and outside lights to my house. The doorbell is actually a motion sensor right near the front door, so if somebody comes close to the front door, it's a doorbell motion. So let me unlock the garage door. You might see the doorbell trigger because it's a motion sensor. Sometimes it does just from the movement of the garage door. But you'll definitely see the garage door sensor change. So you can do that by either sliding this or just clicking it. On a tablet, you just touch it or you slide it. And with the mouse, I can either slide it or click it. So I'm going to click it. The garage door showed unlocked right away. The garage door sensor changed, and the doorbell triggered. And you may have heard in the background a little noise that's indicating the doorbell opened. So those are all things that are part of this. It shows that everything's reactive. All the interface components are implemented. And like I said, it shows the ability to customize a view for a particular sensor or a set of sensors. I'll go into a little bit of detail later about how I did that. Let me come over here to the garage. So now you can see the Vera interface for all this stuff running side by side. And for example, we'll take a look at the doorbell here and the doorbell here. And you'll notice that when I bypass it or arm it, it's instantaneous. And similarly, if I came over here and arm it, it changes over here. Similarly, if I were to lock it remotely from another device, you'll see this thing went to lock. My garage door sensor hasn't detected the garage door is closed yet. It'll take it a few seconds for the garage door to notice it. There went the doorbell sensor again, and notice the motion of the door. It changed status. So here in Vera, the garage door sensor and the loading dock sensor are the same icon, and here I was able to customize them. Other features of the prototype. Let's take a look at the doorbell. I'm going to click on the back, on just not the arm button, but just the background. And this presents you something that's like the Advanced tab in Vera. So there are all the properties for the device itself, and then there's what's called state variables, which are kind of also properties, but very specific. There's some associated with it being a switch. There's some associated with being a security sensor, and the switch has got a status value. And the security sensor shows things like tripped, last tripped, armed. You see that it's armed. The last time it tripped, was just a few minutes ago. So here's what you normally see in Vera, and this is, hold on just a moment, kill my Vera alerts, and this is what you, a user-readable version of the last trip timestamp. So I can see that it was changed on 8/12 at 3:24, which was just a few seconds ago. I did, what did I do? I wanted to stay on that. I changed it to no room. Let's go back to garage. Go back here. And let me take a look to switch power. No, security sensor. And another thing that I wanted to show you is that when you do this in Vera, these values that are shown in the Advanced tab are all stale values. They're there at the time, the first time you look at it in the browser, and they don't change after that. If you wanted to see the current value of these properties in Vera, you have to reload your browser. In this prototype, all of the user interface components are tied to live data. When I'm showing these values right here, if those values change on Vera, this display gets updated. And so I'm going to come back over here now to the Vera user interface, and I'm going to put things in a bypass. So you'll see the doorbell goes to bypass up here on this display, and also you'll see a change here. So armed got changed to 0, armed, it's in bypass, and it's bypass. So the variable is called armed, and like I said, let me go back and toggle it again. You'll see the armed will go to 1. Okay, when it went to armed, that changed to 1. So another aspect of this user interface is that everything that has Vera data associated with it gets updated and redisplayed whenever the Vera data changes. Okay, so you see here that we've got motion sensors, we've got binary lights that can be turned on and off. Notice here that when I turned it on and off, this is a Z-Wave device. It set the. You'll see that it sent the. You'll see that it sets the transmit button. You'll see that's the Z-Wave status, much like you see over here on Vera, where it says transmit was okay. Let me leave this on.
Auto alarm.
Okay, that happens to also be tied to some of my PLE, my program logic event generator logic, which is an auto arming when I turn that switch on and off multiple times. Let me go back here to active again, and you'll see a few more devices in there. I just turned the hallway light on. You'll see these are the great room fans. The fans in my house are on, and the lights in the office. If I were to turn off the office light, it disappears off of the active status because it's no longer active. I can't turn it on from here, but if I were to turn it on manually, or in this case from a different user interface, let me get to the office. If I turn the office light on, you'll see that it came on. The other thing to notice is, in this case, that the intensity of the light is continuously adjustable, not just a few levels like what Vera supports. So this thing really is, it shows up better at night where you can see the contrast of the light, but that's a continuously adjustable light going on there. Okay, other things. Let's go back to all again. Rebuilding the user interface. No room. So this no room I kind of use as a playpen for when I'm playing with devices, plugins and or testing things. So here's my devices for testing PLEG and PLTS. They're not actually part of my permanent house setup. Some other plugins that I'm playing with and or devices. This happens to be a infrared interface. The Shades plugin, I haven't done a little widget here yet for it. Combination switch, Google Calendar. when I have not implemented a user interface for displaying the data for it, it just comes up in this very generic unknown device type of interface. But the nice thing about it is I can still click on it and get all of the associated properties with it. So, the ones associated with the GCal, the ones associated with the fact that it's a security sensor and it's never been tripped, and of course the device properties, what I call it, so forth and so on. At this point in time, all of these properties are read-only. I have not implemented the ability to update these properties. That will come at a subsequent stage in the evaluation. Okay, so that, let me just walk through various kinds of devices. Let's see, I don't believe that there's anything new on the deck. Equipment room, nothing new. Garage, great room. Let's take a look at the great room. It's got a new device. Here you'll see I've got sensors, temperature sensors, light sensors, and that's part of the 3-in-1 sensor. The other aspect of it is the motion, and that just looks like a regular motion sensor right here. You'll see I do not have a widget to display the camera yet, so that'll be subsequent. And what you'll see when you get here is you'll see another tab that allows you to look at the camera and manipulate the camera. The living area, this is my thermostat, and here I just show the set points, the fact that it's 78 degrees, and currently it's idle. Now it's idle, let's see, probably because it was on just a few minutes ago. Yes, because everything's auto and normal, so the fact that it's idle right now means that it just went above, here's the cool set point is 83. That's the reason. Let's go to normal mode. And there, it's now the set point is 77 degrees. It's 78, so it turned it on cooling. And so it's running. If I were to go back to the active page now, the thermostat would show up as being active now because it's not idle. In fact, let me do that very quickly just to demonstrate. Active. And you'll see now that the thermostat is active because it's actually cooling. So I'm going to turn off the hallway light and the office light. So now the only things running in my house are a couple ceiling fans, and I need to change the icons for these. Instead of being lights, I need to be fans. I have the ability to do that. I just haven't done that yet. And now I'm going to go back to all. Oops. Let's go back to all. Is there any other kind of widgets I wanted to show in the prototype and that brought out new features? Let's see, so we did the great room. Nothing else here. This is where I have all of my program logic, timer switches, and stuff like that. Here I have scenes, so you can run a scene. Interesting thing about a scene is, let's take a look at the secure the house scene. Not only does it show you the properties, but you actually see the details of it. So what happens when I say secure the house is I set the lower door, the upper door, the loading dock door, and the garage door. I lock all those locks. That's all that scene does. I actually set them up using the scene controller in Vera, but that's all this particular scene does. And some of my other scenes are much more complicated. For example, the all lights on. There's an immediate, what happens immediately, and that what happens 20 seconds later. And the 20 seconds later, the immediate is to turn certain lights off, and then the 20 seconds later is to do a bunch of other stuff. So, and the reason for that I don't want to explain. It's just something that I do in my house and how I've set things up. So that kind of displays all the kind of widgets and so forth that are implemented. Let's take a look at one other aspect of this. One of the things that I mentioned was that this is based on the latest technology that allows you to customize the view of it. Let me very easily change the themes on this. So I'm just going to go to the source code for this, main.html. So this is the bare HTML file. That's it. There's nothing, a couple extra lines. But inside here, I do something called I set the theme. So the main data page theme is, let's change this to E. And save the file, and I'm just going to reload it. Notice the background, everything's kind of changed. So basically, I have 5 different themes equivalent to the letters A, B, C, D, and E set up. These are just the default themes that came with jQuery, or jQuery Mobile. jQuery Mobile has the ability to create more themes. Basically, I've changed the user interface now. When I click on things, these are, you'll see that even those panels change.